Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here with us today because, man, we are going to unpack what is literally one of the most epic, dramatic, and just mind-bending stories in the history of our planet. We're traveling back 66 million years to look at the absolute peak of prehistoric evolution and then the sudden fiery reset that changed the course of life on Earth forever. So get ready, because the scale of this story is just truly unimaginable. I mean, just picture it for a second. 66 million years ago, right where present-day Mexico sits, the most magnificent creatures to ever walk the earth were locked in this brutal million-year war for survival. You had these colossal meat-eaters and heavily armored herbivores battling it out every single day just to keep their bloodlines going. They had reached the absolute peak of evolutionary perfection. And yet, here's the ultimate irony. They were completely unaware that a random space rock was hurtling toward them, about to wipe out millions of years of biological engineering in mere seconds. Part 1. The Cretaceous Arms Race. Evolution at its peak. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand this dramatic end, we first have to look at the incredibly harsh beginnings that forged these ultimate survivors in the first place. Let's actually go back a bit further, to 145 million years ago, right at the end of the Jurassic period. The supercontinent Pangaea was violently breaking apart into smaller pieces, and, this tectonic chaos caused massive volcanic eruptions everywhere. It pumped so much toxic gas into the atmosphere that CO2 levels completely tripled, and the result of all that, the Earth's average temperature spiked by 3 degrees. Now, 3 degrees might not sound like a big deal to us today, but on a planetary scale, it was utterly catastrophic. So let's look at how this builds into a deadly chain reaction. First, those volcanoes emitted massive amounts of CO2, warming the Earth by those 3 crucial degrees. This intense heat then melted the polar ice, completely disrupting the global equilibrium and killing off massive amounts of vegetation. And without those plants, the giant Jurassic herbivores literally starved and died out. Now, with the old herbivores gone, a massive gap in the food chain opened up. To fill this gap, new dinosaurs had to radically evolve to survive the heat. Some even developed these crazy thermoregulating beaks filled with blood vessels just to absorb or emit heat depending on their environment. It's fascinating to see the stark contrast in how different animals handled these extremes. On one hand, our tiny mammalian ancestors were basically playing defense. Laying thick-shelled eggs in a low-oxygen environment just required way too much energy. So they brilliantly adapted by keeping their babies inside, eventually evolving pouches to nurture their premature young. This saved them precious energy and oxygen. On the other hand, massive predators went entirely on the offense. The Spinosaurus literally engineered a completely new unidirectional respiratory system. They developed these internal air sacs to capture and concentrate oxygen before it even hit their lungs. It allowed them to completely thrive while other creatures were literally suffocating. Part 2. Monsters of the Deep, the Ocean Frontier. Now, those melting poles meant rising sea levels, which ended up flooding the land and totally changing the water's chemistry. Facing way too much competition on land, the Spinosaurus was forced into the water, and it adopted some unbelievable evolutionary tactics. They developed webbed feet, kind of like ducks, and these balloon-like internal organs to help them float, eventually evolving into the absolutely terrifying semi-aquatic Mosasaurus. And what happens when an apex predator enters the sea? Well, an underwater arms race. The mosasaurs ruthlessly hunted the smaller ichthyosaurs to extinction. To avoid sharing that exact same fate, the surviving plesiosaurs had to rapidly adapt, growing massive in size and developing these giant nail-like teeth to become the terrifying pliosaurus. Truly, only the absolute strongest were surviving here.
Part 3. The Ultimate Dinosaur Rivalry, Battle for the Land.
So, with the oceans now dominated by these terrifying sea monsters, the evolutionary struggle back on land was about to reach its absolute peak. And this brilliantly illustrates how the smallest changes can ripple through an entire ecosystem. Continual earthquakes were destroying the land plants, which ended up starving out insects and the small mammals that ate them. These desperate mammals actually started scavenging dead dinosaurs, but to avoid becoming prey themselves, they'd only come out at night. Well, the predator Archaeopteryx noticed this and adapted, evolving vertical pupils to capture maximum light in the dark. And this night-hunting adaptation eventually transformed them into the lightning-fast, terrifying velociraptor. The domino effect here is just mind-blowing. Now, as predators like the velociraptor grew deadlier, herbivores like the protoceratops had to evolve extreme defenses. They grew 3 horns and this heavily armored neck plate to become the immovable triceratops.
But to break through that armor, predators like the Allosaurus evolved incredibly strong jaws. I mean, jaws capable of crushing a modern-day paw in a single bite, ultimately becoming the unstoppable T-Rex. And this set the stage for the ultimate showdown, the unstoppable force of the pack-hunting T-Rex going up against the immovable, fiercely aggressive Triceratops. This rivalry right here was the defining conflict of the entire era.
Part 4. The Doomsday Asteroid. A cosmic plot twist.
So just as life had perfectly engineered itself for this spectacular, delicate balance, a sudden, intensely ironic cosmic plot twist was about to interrupt millions of years of biological perfection. I really want you to focus on this number for a second. 30. That is how fast, in kilometers per second, a Mount Everest-sized asteroid was hurtling toward Earth. It was moving so incredibly fast that it was compressing the air in front of it to temperatures as hot as the surface of the sun. It literally took just seconds to hit the Earth, right off the coast of present-day Mexico. And in that one flash, the world changed forever. The immediate violence of this event is honestly hard to even comprehend. First, this shocking, devastating blast wave obliterated everything in its immediate path. Then, the immense heat and ejected debris caused scorching hot glass and rock to, quite literally, rain back down from the sky, setting the entire continent on fire. And if that wasn't enough, the sheer energy of the impact sent a mega tsunami over 10 meters high racing across the ocean. We were talking about a wave a staggering 30,000 times more powerful than the deadliest tsunamis we see today. The coastlines literally didn't stand a chance.
Part 5. Earth's Apocalyptic Winter, a Cold, Dark World.
The fiery blast destroyed everything near ground zero, right? But for the dinosaurs that actually managed to survive the initial impact and those towering waves, well, their fate was sealed by a slow, agonizing aftermath. First, a massive amount of dust and debris completely blocked out the sun, plunging the world into this cold, dark nuclear winter that completely halted all photosynthesis. Without plants, the surviving herbivores quickly starved, followed shortly after by the mighty carnivores. The entire food chain just completely collapsed. And to make matters worse, acid rain poured down for years, making the oceans way too toxic for marine life. So you see, it wasn't just the fiery blast that defeated the mighty T-Rex. It was the cold, dark, starving world that followed. So the crucial point here is the massive scale of the devastation. The combination of that immediate blast and the prolonged apocalyptic winter pushed an astounding 75% of all life on Earth to total extinction. The most gigantic, deadly reptiles to ever roam the planet were simply erased, leaving behind a cold, acidic, and entirely devastated world. Part 6. The Mammalian Rebirth. Earth Reinvented. But, Earth is remarkably resilient. From the ashes of the dinosaurs, we enter our final, hopeful act. The planet didn't just rebuild, it completely reinvented itself. Watch how quickly life clawed its way back. Just 1,000 years after the impact, hardy ferns and a few furry little critters were already sprinting around the recovering landscape. Fast forward 100,000 years, and mammals the size of raccoons were successfully repopulating the continents. By the 10 million year mark, Earth's biodiversity was fully restored. But it wasn't the dinosaurs ruling anymore. The very mammalian ancestors we tracked earlier, the ones who changed how they reproduced and hid in the dark just to avoid predators, they had ultimately inherited the Earth. It was officially the Age of Mammals. Which leaves us with a fascinating yet slightly haunting thought. The dinosaurs reached absolute perfection, only to be wiped out in a flash, allowing mammals to take the throne. We are the direct descendants of those tiny, night-scavenging survivors. But if another Mount Everest-sized asteroid struck today and ended our reign, what incredible creatures would rise up from the ashes to take our place? Thank you so much for diving into this source material with me today for this explainer. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.